Say the only growing space I had was a patio. Not an acre, not a backyard full of rows, not even a scrap of soil, just a square of paving outside the back door, with one sunny wall. Could I stop buying produce from a space like that? Let me be honest with you right at the start, because that honesty is the whole point. A patio of pots will not grow you wheat, or press your oil, or raise you an animal, and it will not fill a pantry to carry you through deep winter. A patio cannot feed you everything. But there is one thing it can do, and it is the thing that fills most of the trolley every single week. It can grow the fresh produce your family actually eats. The salad, the tomatoes, the peppers, the beans, the herbs, even a little fruit. The whole fresh produce aisle, the part of the store you visit most and throw away most, can grow in pots on a patio. So this is the garden I would actually build, step by step, if a patio were all I had. And here is the idea that makes it click. I would not build it like a garden at all. I would build it like a grocery list. Every station on this patio is one more part of the store you stop walking into until the patio itself becomes your produce aisle. And the whole thing runs on one idea this channel keeps coming back to. It was never about how much land you have. It is about how hard each square foot works. Here is the first station, and it is the one you will pick from almost every single day. Station 1 is the salad station, and I would put it right by the door, because it is the produce you buy the most and waste the most: bagged salad and leafy greens. Those flimsy plastic bags are one of the fastest things to slime up in the fridge, and you rebuy them week after week. So the first pots I would fill are wide, shallow ones packed with loose leaf greens, leaf lettuce, spinach, kale, whatever your family actually eats. Greens are perfect for a patio because they are shallow-rooted and happy in a shallow pot. They do not need depth, they need light and a little water, both of which a patio has. Now the trick that most people get wrong, and the reason one small pot can quietly replace a whole aisle: you do not grow a lettuce, wait for a head, and cut the whole thing down. You grow them close together, and you harvest, cut, and come again, taking just the outer leaves and leaving the growing center alone. Do that, and a single sowing does not give you one salad, it gives you salad for weeks, because the plant keeps pushing new leaves from the middle as fast as you pick the edges. A couple of dollars of seed in a shallow pot by the door can stand in for a bagged salad you would otherwise rebuy every trip, and it is fresher because it goes from pot to plate in about a minute. That is the whole idea of this build in one pot. Station 2 is the produce your family probably eats more of than any other. Station 2. Tomatoes and peppers, the everyday veg, in the biggest pots you can fit against that sunny wall. If there is one fresh thing a household runs through all season, it is tomatoes, and the supermarket version is the biggest letdown in the store, bred to survive a truck, not to taste of anything. So this is the crop where growing your own is the most dramatic jump in quality you will find anywhere on the patio. And here is where a patio quietly beats an open garden, which surprises people. All that paving and the wall behind it soak up the sun through the day and give the heat back slowly through the evening, so a pot sitting on warm paving against a warm wall lives in a little pocket of stored heat. That head start and that long, slow finish can ripen your tomatoes earlier in the season and keep them going later than the same plant would manage out in open, exposed ground. I would give a big pot each to one indeterminate tomato, the vining kind that keeps growing and fruiting rather than stopping all at once, and one or two pepper plants beside it. Then the one habit that keeps them feeding you for months. On the tomato, pinch out the little shoots that sprout in the joint between the main stem and a branch, the ones gardeners call suckers, so the plant pours its energy into fruit instead of a tangle of leaves. And on both, keep picking, because the more you take, the more they set. 2 or 3 big pots on warm paving, feeding you the produce you buy most. Station 3 is where a patio has a secret weapon a flat garden does not. Station 3 is the move that makes a patio punch far above its size. Go up the wall. A patio's best growing space is not the floor, it is the vertical face behind it, and almost nobody uses it. So against that sunny wall, or along the rail, I would stand a simple trellis or run some strings, and up them go two of the heaviest producers you can grow in a pot, pole beans and a cucumber vine. Trained upward instead of sprawling across the ground, these plants take a footprint the size of a doormat and turn it into a hanging curtain of food. Beans earn that space like almost nothing else, because the more you pick, the more they make. A bean plant is only trying to set seed, so every young pod you take signals it to flower and try again, which means one run of pole beans up a string can keep handing you pickings for weeks on end. The cucumbers do the same trick vertically. One vine trained up can set a surprising number of fruit over a season from a pot you could step around. And here is the surprise that makes the wall even smarter than it looks. That curtain of leaves throws a strip of cool shade at its feet, and that shade is not a problem, it is a feature, because it is exactly where you tuck a pot of summer lettuce so it does not bolt in the heat. You are stacking 3 crops into the airspace above one small pot. Station 4 is the produce you overpay for the most, in the smallest, saddest packaging in the whole store. Station 4, herbs, the flavor wall, and this is where the patio pays you back the fastest. Think about how herbs are sold. A few cut sprigs sealed in a stiff little plastic clamshell, one of the highest prices by weight in the entire store, and they turn to slime in your fridge in a matter of days, so half of every pack goes in the bin. It is the worst value corner of the produce section, and it is the easiest one to replace completely. A patio is perfect for it because herbs are small, they love the sun and the warmth bouncing off the paving, and you want them right by the kitchen door where you will actually cut them. So I would line up pots of the ones you cook with most: basil, parsley, cilantro, a pot of mint kept to itself because it spreads, and a clump of chives. Here is the spike, and it is almost too easy. A living herb pot you snip from all season costs about the same as one of those clamshells you buy once and throw half away, except it keeps giving. Cut and come again herbs like basil and parsley regrow the more you pinch them. Mint and chives are close to immortal and come back year after year, and green onions will regrow from the white root ends you would have thrown in the bin, so push those scraps into a pot, and that patch is effectively free forever. Fresh flavor, by the door, for the price of the salad you used to bin. So that is the first 4 stations. Before the next 3, let me flag what actually changes from here. So that is the first half of the patio, a salad station by the door, big pots of tomatoes and peppers on the warm paving, beans and cucumbers climbing the wall, and a flavor wall of herbs. Stop and notice what those 4 already cover, because it is most of the fresh produce a family reaches for in a normal week: the salad, the tomatoes, the peppers, the beans, the seasoning for every meal. You would already be walking past a big stretch of the produce section. The next 3 are what turn a good patio garden into one that genuinely replaces the aisle: the fruit everyone is sure you need a yard for, the roots people think need open ground, and the one move that stretches the whole thing from summer into the cold months instead of quitting in autumn. Quick question before we go on, and I read every reply. What is the one thing in the produce aisle your family buys the most, the one you would most love to stop paying for? Tell me in the comments. I am genuinely curious what tops your list. Now, Station 5, and it is the one that makes this more than a vegetable patch. Station 5, fruit, the part of the word produce that people are most sure they cannot grow without a yard, and it is easier than almost anyone believes on a patio. I would start with strawberries because they are made for pots, they are shallow-rooted, they trail happily over the edge of a container or a hanging basket, and here is the payoff. Strawberries are perennial, so a single planting keeps coming back and fruiting for several years, not one season. Plant them once, and that pot hands you sweet fruit summer after summer for the price of a bag you would otherwise buy again and again. Then the one that surprises everyone, a true dwarf, patio-type fruit tree in one large pot. These are not a gimmick, they are ordinary fruit varieties grown on dwarfing roots that were bred specifically to stay small and crop in a container, so a single big pot in a sunny corner can give you real apples, or figs, or a dwarf citrus on a footprint you could stand a chair on. It will not fill a cellar, but it turns your patio from a veg plot into something that grows dessert too, snacking fruit from pots in a space people swear is too small for it. Station 6 is the crop everyone is most certain needs a plot of open ground. Station 6. Roots and quick-turn crops, the ones everybody assumes need a plowed field. Carrots, radishes, beets, the things that seem to belong in long open rows. But roots do not want ground, they want depth and loose, stone-free soil, and a deep pot of potting mix is nothing but depth and loose soil. This is one place pots genuinely beat the average backyard. Carrots stuck in heavy garden clay come out short, forked and twisted, but in a deep pot of fluffy mix they grow long and straight the way they are supposed to, because you control exactly what they grow in. Radishes are where I would start any quick-turn pot, because they are the fastest reward in the whole garden. From sowing a seed to pulling a crisp radish is often only around 3 to 4 weeks, which means one pot can be sown, pulled and sown again several times across a single season, always filling a gap. Carrots and beets take longer but sit happily in a deep pot the whole time, and the beet tops give you a bonus pan of greens while the root swells below. And tuck in a pot of green onions from those regrown scrap ends we talked about, because they are the definition of never buying it again. The crops you were most sure needed a farm, turning over quietly in a few deep pots. Station 7 is the difference between a patio that feeds you in July and one that feeds you nearly all year. Station 7 is the one that earns the word never in Never Buy Produce Again, and it is the station most people skip, keep the pots producing past summer. Here is the mistake almost everyone makes. They plant the patio once in spring, pick through the warm months, and by autumn the pots are spent and everything winds down, so they drift straight back to buying produce for more than half the year. The fix has two parts and neither is hard. First, succession. The moment a pot finishes, something goes straight back in. When the spring radishes come out, greens or beans go in. When the summer lettuce bolts, that pot gets rezoned. Second, and this is the surprise that makes never realistic, you lean into the cool season crops because a lot of the best fresh produce actually prefers the cold. Kale, spinach, hardy salad leaves, and other cool season greens will keep growing through chilly weather, and a patio makes them even easier to protect. Pull the pots close against that warm wall and throw a cheap cover or a clear cloche over them on the coldest nights, and you can keep picking fresh leaves deep into the cold months when the produce aisle is at its most expensive and its least fresh. Most patios go bare in autumn not because they have to, but because nobody replanted them for the cold. Keep the pots turning over, and the patio keeps you out of the aisle nearly all year. That is the whole build. Now here is how you run it so it actually replaces the shopping instead of just decorating the paving. Here is the part that ties the 7 stations into one working patio instead of 7 separate pots, and it is the reason a square of paving can genuinely keep you out of the produce aisle. A patio has one real limit: space. You cannot grow everything at once, and you should not try. 3 rules make that space work far harder than its size. First, grow your cart. not a catalog. Point every pot at your real shopping list, the fresh things your family actually buys and eats each week, not what looks impressive in a photo, because the whole payoff is walking past that part of the store. Second, go up, always. A patio's cheapest space is the wall and the rail, so put anything that will climb, beans, cucumbers, even tomatoes and trailing fruit into the air, and let the floor hold the pots that cannot. And third, the big one, never leave a pot bare. The day you harvest a pot out, refill it that same day. Something fast in the shallow pots, something tall on the strings, something slow in the deep ones, and never a circle of empty potting mix sitting there wasting a week of sun. Do those three things, and the patio is always producing something, which is the only way a small space adds up to a big dent in the shopping. And grow what your family actually eats, so the payoff is not a pretty patio, it is the quiet evening you make dinner and realize you have not walked down the produce aisle in weeks because it is all just outside the back door. That is the system, not a bigger yard, a fuller patio. So that is the garden I would build if a patio were all I had. A salad station by the door, big pots of tomatoes and peppers on the warm paving, beans and cucumbers up the wall, a flavor wall of herbs, strawberries and a dwarf tree for fruit, deep pots of roots and green onions, and cool season greens to carry it through the cold, every pot refilled the day it empties so it almost never stops. This channel is called 1 Acre Blueprint, and by now the real lesson is clear. The blueprint was never really about the acre. It is about how hard each square foot works, and a patio worked properly can keep a family out of the produce aisle for most of the year. Do not try to build all of it at once. Pick one station to start this week. The salad pots feed you almost every day. The radishes give you a harvest in under a month if you want a fast win, and the herbs pay you back the very first time you skip that sad little clamshell. Subscribe to stay on the 1 Acre Blueprint, because next we take this same idea and scale it up, the exact plan for turning a patio like this into a whole small yard that feeds a family right through the year. And tell me in the comments, if you had only a patio, which of these 7 stations are you building first?